Welcome to Behind the SME, the podcast where we dive into the stories of founders, leaders, and visionaries of small and medium-sized enterprises. As the CEO of a small business myself, I want to uncover what drives the success of SMEs by talking to those who are in the trenches, building their businesses from the ground up. I hope you enjoy the episode. Bella, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you on. We'll maybe start by explaining how we know each other.
Yeah, let's.
So we met through my sister.
Yeah.
In fact, my earliest memory of you is some 18 years ago.
Oh my God, don't. You're showing my age now.
I know. And I've heard lots about obviously your career and family and your life. And obviously we have that kind of every 5-year big catch up where we see each other at some kind of event that Anna's put on. And she obviously said to me, Bella's a big fan of the podcast. She's doing an amazing job with her business. You should definitely have her on. And yeah, here we are.
I know a lot's changed in 18 years, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, you're doing so incredibly, and I was very honoured to be invited. So thank you so much.
That's
and
very kind.
Yeah,
you can come back.
Thank you.
So why don't we start by giving everyone a little whistle-stop tour of, I guess, your journey through to today and early career and your business.
Yeah. So obviously I met your sister at uni. But my first job actually was at Conde Nast, which is a really sort of quite very famous publishing house, for those that haven't heard that. So I started off at Tatler and then Traveller and latterly Brides magazine. But it was actually always a sort of teenage dream to be in that industry. And when I got the job, it was the sort of hallelujah, you know, holy grail moment.
Yeah.
And I was there for 10 years and just had the best time. And I actually started off in sales and I did really enjoy it. I did the grad scheme and then worked my way up. But then the recession hit and it was a sort of, there was no bonuses and they were kind of expecting us to sell advertising. And I remember having a moment where I sold a huge supplement into the state of Pahang in Malaysia. And you sort of weren't earning bonuses and I was earning, nothing. You're talking like sort of, 25 grand. So I kind of had a bit of a career pivot and wanted to go into the more editorial side. So I ended up then at Brides magazine as the retail editor and events director, which was this sort of great hybrid role, which spans sort of shopping pages, travel, and then I managed all the events. So we did a big consumer show, a big bridal show, and all the reader events and branded events.
Wow.
So
was it as dreamy as people that kind of look at that industry?
Yes.
Was there lots of pinch yourself moments?
I can't even tell you because it's obviously the landscape of magazines now is completely different. And those Conde Nast glory days are dead.
Yeah.
But I definitely experienced the last of those bastion days.
Really?
And I'm not even joking when I tell you my salary was so embarrassingly tiny, but you got paid in perks basically.
Yeah.
But it was just, you worked with incredible people. It was so glamorous. You went to amazing parties, producing these magazines, working with models, producing catwalks, which is a big thing that I did.
Wow.
It was, and I think the great thing about Brides magazine, actually, funnily enough, I was engaged when I eventually got the job at Brides, but I was kind of a bit like, I want to work at Vogue.
Yeah.
I better, I'll get this on my CV and then I'll move on. But because it was a smaller magazine, it gave me so much scope. And there was no events role there when I started. So that was something I grew. And then they needed someone to produce catwalks. I was like, I'll learn how to do that. And so then that kind of led on to the kind of director role. And I produced some massive parties for Conde Nast and it was just an amazing experience.
And so most people's experience with that world is Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
Like that's our one kind of window into the world, right?
And I'm telling you, there were some moments.
Really?
Definitely. There's a tiny part of me that's like, maybe I should write a book about this.
Brilliant.
But, and my Tatler days particularly, that was probably the most as sort of dramatic as it got. And there were just amazing characters. You sort of had that fashion world back then. They had such power. And it was, I was sort of like tiny little junior and, just watching this was like, oh my God,
wow.
watching unfold. So it was amazing. And actually, as you and I chatted about, back then, I loved being part of that. I loved my monthly paycheck that covered, partying and paying my rent, and was really happy with that. And just, got a little bit, felt like I was coasting, wanted a new project, applied for a new job, got it, moved on up, moved to a different magazine. And it was just a lovely stepping stone. So it was amazing. But then I never ever sort of saw myself as an entrepreneur or a business owner, and actually always thought, oh my God, that sounds literally like the last thing in the world I'd want to do. And now I look back and I'm quite embarrassed that I think like that, because it's the best thing I've ever done, And
so what was the moment? There must have been something that happened to make you go, time to leave this dream job. And
I know. Well, I basically cried on maternity leave when I had my last day. It was like, oh my God, I'm going. And I wanted to go back, and I desperately tried to go back, but my salary was so low, and I was looking at nursery fees, and I basically was barely going to cover my costs. And then the final straw was they then really brilliantly offered me this 3-day-a-week copywriting role. But the salary was, I think it was 19,000. And actually my husband was like, are you actually mad? I mean, you can't, that is just crazy kind of thing. So I made a decision to just write down or sort of copy every single contact I knew, even from like a sound production guy that I worked with on a shoot or something. And I toyed with the idea of freelancing, but I genuinely was terrified. So I was like, what happens if I can't, make enough money? And actually I have to give a little shout out to my husband, because he was like, it doesn't matter, just try. If it doesn't work, you can go and get a job. But I was moving down to Dorset. My husband was in London, so I needed something flexible. And so I basically just kind of made a list of my skills, made this huge list. And actually that is something I'd say to anyone looking to new venture or start up something, is it's amazing how many contacts you have and how many skills you actually have if you really write them down. And I basically just called every single contact I had and said, look, I'm freelancing. This is my skill set. Do you have any openings at the moment? What's going on? And honestly, off the back of that day, I basically booked 3 jobs. So I was like, oh, okay. And that then kind of led me into this kind of brand consultancy role. And I took on a lot of clients. And from then I never really looked back. At one point, 6 months in, I was basically doing 3 days a week, and I doubled my salary from Conde Nast.
Yeah.
And I was working half the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and doing kind of I cherry picked all the bits of my job I loved. And that's what I was kind of doing, and working with amazing brands, and had some great projects.
And I guess that's such an interesting exercise. I've never heard anybody do that, but writing down your skills. And I guess that means that you end up doing work that's, aligned with your skills, and therefore you actually enjoy.
Yeah, and actually working out the bits you really enjoy.
Yeah.
And you're good at, and the areas that, and also there's so many, like things like the catwalk production. I had no experience. But, you can shadow someone. You can kind of there's people you can talk to. There's experience you can get. You can learn any skill, really, if you kind of find something. And it's amazing how many people are so good at kind of, they actually want to help and want to give advice and want to kind of have a protege to share. So that was quite an interesting, So
so how did that evolve into your business?
So then, sorry, it's a really convoluted story. So I was freelancing, and I actually nearly set up a consultancy because I had so many clients at the time, and I took on 2 freelance girls to help me. And it was interesting because a friend of mine, she came to work with me, and it was going really well, but I suddenly felt this pressure if I was going to set up a consultancy business, that I've got to win clients, I've got to keep clients, I'm going to have to start paying actual salaries. And I was kind of toying with the idea, but I sort of felt like my heart wasn't in setting up as a business, even though it was growing and I kind of couldn't keep on top of it.
This is between baby 1 and 2.
So this is in between baby 1 and 2, exactly. Yeah. And then Brides closed.
Right.
Which was so sad. Oh, my baby. And my colleague and friend, Sophie, she was the beauty editor at Brides. She called me, and she was freelancing in the beauty world, and said to me, look, I have got all these beauty brands that are desperate to tap into the bridal market. Brides and 2 of the other big magazines are closed, literally all in the same 6 months. There was this event that we launched at Brides called the Bridal Beauty Hub. She said, look, what do you think? Can you help me pull this together? And I was like, well, I can, and I can do it. But I said, I don't want to plough loads of capital into it. We have to do it on a sort of contra basis. And I'd want to do it if amazing brands are on board. So she was like, leave it with me 24 hours. And she came back and said, okay, I've got Estee Lauder, Tilbury, Bobbi Brown, blah, 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 blah. I mean, literally reeled off these brands who are keen. So I was like, oh my gosh, this has actually got legs. Let's do it.
Wow.
So I remember I was on holiday in France and I just had this real kind of moment of, the beauty industry is incredible because there's infinite number of brands. They do tend to have big budgets. And what I knew from working as a consultant for brands is every brand is looking for a new route to market. And that, if you can go into a brand and say, I can give you this new route to market that you don't currently have, their ears will, they'll listen to you and they'll be up for this. So
originally, was it just going to be, we'll do this one-off event, you and Sophie, and then see what happens after that?
Exactly. And Sophie's amazing. But we set it up as a company because we were like, we better sound legit, hadn't we, to these amazing, massive brands. And then we had to VAT register ourselves within a month because we're like, oh gosh, actually we're making money. And we sold it within 4 months.
Wow.
I produced the whole thing, got everything together. We managed to work with all the brands. It was the Dorchester Hotel.
What year was this?
This was just before, so it was just before lockdown. So what are we, 2019?
Yeah.
So then, really exciting. The event was going to be in March, and
oh wait, you planned it for 2020.
So we were on this humongous high thinking, oh my God, we're on a gold mine here. This is the best business in the world. We're going to change the world, take over the world. And then lockdown happened and we had to postpone the event the week before.
No.
And I can't even tell you, the crashing low. It was horrible.
You sold tickets, the stands were all sold.
It was all sold. Everything was done.
Oh my
and I
gosh.
genuinely, because it was the weekend before, it was that line of we're going into lockdown on the Tuesday or something.
Yeah.
And we had to make the call and we were going back and forth with the venue. And the venue were like, and we're going to have to put all these controls in place, but what are the kind of implications if we have a mass outbreak of this new COVID thing?
Yeah.
So we had to postpone it.
And they link it back to your new business as the super spreader.
I know, exactly. So we're like, oh my God.
Wow. All brides planning their weddings.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
It's just been like a nightmare. But that was the best thing that ever happened to us. So we went into lockdown and then all the brands that were involved said, don't worry, we'll stay with you. The minute we can do it, we'll stay with you. So that was a kind of, okay, that's fine. But a couple of brands said, look, we've got samples. You've got this route to market. Have you thought about beauty boxes? And we had, and it was on our business plan. But it was something, if I'm honest, we'd so focused on the festival and we were only 6 months into launching this business that we thought, one day we might try that. And it was quite a flooded market.
When you say they were saying you've got this route to market,
Yeah.
It was big data list of new brides that signed up to the event. Okay.
So beauty brands, that's, our core target. They have their female, all the different genres of female, purchases. And, if you say, I'm selling a beauty box that's aged 25 to 45, they're like, great, cool, but I've got that market, or I can get it from so-and-so. But the amazing little niche with brides is that they're this incredibly brand new market. They kind of reevaluate everything from their beauty regime.
Sure.
And they're very captive audience and they spend money. And beauty's so huge for them. So, beauty brands want to tap into them because that's a brand new customer for them, basically.
Yeah. And I guess you get engaged, like you said, you suddenly start looking at the whole regime in advance of getting married, and that might set your habits up for post-marriage as well. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And
but the challenge must be in that market that a lot of people hopefully only get married once, and if they do, if they do get married more than once, it's a bit of a gap in between. You must be constantly looking for new people to come into the market. Yeah,
I guess that's our sellable tool, is our client database, basically.
Sure.
And it does, with our Instagram, we've been so passionate about the fact that it's complete organic growth and we haven't bought any of our followers, which a lot of people do. But it does ebb and flow. We might lose 2,000, gain 2,500. Our database is interesting because with our beauty boxes, I'd say about 50% is bridal and then 50% are beauty customers, core beauty customers. So we span both that. That's how we've grown that.
Right.
So that, and actually we tend to, once we get a customer, for the beauty box side, they tend to stay with us. We've got really good retainer rate.
So just explain to us what the beauty box is.
So the beauty boxes, so we launched that in lockdown. So we were basically a massive success story, thank goodness, of lockdown. So we launched the beauty box. We launched our first one, which we basically pitched to loads of different brands to sample in our beauty box. We did a first run of, I think, 600. And they gave us full-size products or deluxe samples, and we kind of packaged this ultimate bridal beauty box. I mean, hilariously, Sophie did the first one, I did the second one. I mean, literally in our kitchens, and we had sort of boxes piled up.
Yeah.
And when you think of, we had 21 products in each box times 600. I mean, it was tens of thousands of products that literally descended on us. It was so stressful. And then we sold out instantly. So we're like, oh my God, okay, this is... So we've kind of upped our numbers, upped the edits. And then as we came out of lockdown, we kind of really properly thought about edits and shot full ranges of different products.
So the value proposition for someone as a potential buyer is, I'm going to get married.
Yeah.
Or my daughter's going to get married, my best friend's going to get married.
Yeah.
Here's an amazing curated selection of beauty products.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's our bridal side. And then now we ventured into more the mainstream beauty side, which is, there are a lot of beauty box companies out there, but our kind of USP is that we're expert, we're beauty journalists and we are experts, and we kind of curate them by hand, and we do smaller runs rather than sort of tens of thousands. And we kind of feel like we're quite passionate about what we're putting into the market.
Yeah.
So it's, and lots of people see past the bridal branding that we're just, and we actually last year won the UK's best beauty box company.
Wow.
Wech was really exciting.
Congrats.
So thanks.
Unbelievable. And so did the event ever go ahead?
Yeah, so sorry, I'm like skipping back and forth. So then we're coming up to our 5th event now. So went ahead.
Annual event, is it?
It's an annual event. So we do our festival once a year, which is massive. So last year we did it at the Nobu. We sold 1,000 tickets. We have 40 exhibitors. And the idea is that it's that sort of aspirational luxe event. It's not your sort of big Excel bridal show. It's very sort of immersive, and we do masterclasses and talks and demos and work with really lovely brands. Yeah. So that's now once a year. And then we also, as another offshoot of the business, we produce events for beauty brands. So we do press and influencer launches, beauty breakfasts, consumer events, beauty panels. Wow. And that sort of thing. So that's how we've kind of grown, I guess, of going off in tangents but always event and kind of beauty box led. Those are the shop and the events are basically our two. Yeah,
it's it must be such an enjoyable business because you're capturing people at such an amazing time in their life.
Sure, it is actually really lovely. When you speak to people, it's a really lovely conversation opener. Yeah. And everyone's really excited. And quite often a lot of the beauty brands, especially the kind of entry-level marketing and PRs, is kind of right in that, late 20-something, 30-something. They're in that zone. So it's a really great conversation opener saying like, hi, I'm working on a bridal project. And they're like, yes, please, can I talk? So, and it is, and even our festival, which is, quite a juggernaut to organise and bring to life. But actually on the day, it's really special because everyone's just like, whoa. All excited. So it's it's really fun.
Amazing.
Really fun.
So Baby One happened and was, I guess, the genesis of wanting to work in a more flexible way.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm right saying Baby Two came along.
And then Baby Two came along
while this was all kicking off.
So I've basically freelanced for 2 years. And then we set it up.
Wow.
So my daughters Tallulah and Tiggy. And it's amazing to do something yourself. And, I literally love my time at Conde Nast, and I have no regrets because actually it's led to where I am now. And weirdly, when I was thinking about this podcast, I remembered something that really stayed with me. And I read an article years and years ago about in your 20s, use your 20s to get as much experience as you can and make loads of contacts. And in your 30s, use it to make money. And it's something that it just stayed with me. And it's basically, everything that Conde Nast gave me has led me to where I am now. Those contacts, those footings, all that experience.
Yeah.
So it is.
It
does. Yeah.
I've heard that piece of advice too. Maybe it was my sister, your friend.
Maybe just like sowing seeds, sowing these amazing anecdotes for us.
I mean, most people start a business having dreamt about doing it forever.
Did you, out of interest?
Yeah,
Did you?
yeah, and I've talked about this before on the
Yeah.
podcast, but I was a kind of a childhood entrepreneur with lots of little schemes and car parks and,
I
and
do
all
remember that,
sorts.
actually.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
And freezing water with the hope that it might expand and I could sell the top. Anyway, that was on one of the podcasts we released recently.
Oh my God,
But
amazing.
yeah, I'd always thought it was something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But you don't actually often meet people that I guess are reluctant entrepreneurs, but
Yeah.
then once they've got, I guess, a bit of a taste of it, they, to your point, go, don't know why I really felt like that.
Yeah.
Why do you think you felt like that originally?
I don't know. I think I loved, maybe it's a confidence thing. I'd always dreamt of that magazine world, sort of fantasized about being in that world. That's what I always thought about. And the confidence thing of loving that paycheck and that security of it.
Right.
And, my mum was amazing. She always said to me, always have a career. She never necessarily said, earn loads of money, be really successful, but she just said, always have a career, have your own thing. Even when you're married, never rely on a man, just have your own career.
Good advice.
Which really stayed with me, which was amazing, amazing advice. And from 16, I, similar to your sister, we've always worked, always worked. And, never earned loads of money, but I was always in the pub working, or I was sort of, had holiday jobs always, and pretty self-sufficient, really. I haven't really had handouts from my parents. So I think I loved the work. I loved Conde Nast. But again, like thinking about this podcast, I was sort of thinking about my personality, and actually I suit that sort of entrepreneurial life, because I sort of, if I get a bit, maybe I've got a tiny bit of ADHD, I don't know. I know that's banded around so much, isn't it? But if I get bored or I find myself coasting, I'm quite like, oh, I need a new challenge or next thing. And I'm never that person that will sit in a job, and there were definitely people like that at Conde Nast, and moan about how much they hated it for 20 years. I'd be like, right, okay, I'm a bit stunted in this job. There's no growth for me here. I'll apply for another magazine or another role. And that's what I did. And I always got those jobs. So I kind of, even though I thought, I was at Conde Nast for 10 years, I actually had 4 completely different new jobs there.
Sure.
And I think that kind of suits me well for this world, because, every day you kind of have to be on your toes a lot, don't you? And every day's different.
Yeah.
And it can be bloody stressful. But I'm quite good at turning my hand to most things. And I have got quite a good high stress threshold, I think.
Yeah. And how have you found the adaptation from every month, 28th, whatever it was, being paid? You know what's coming into. I have no idea what's going to happen. Like, I think it's going to be, a good month or a bad month, but really you're in the lap of the gods. And
I mean, again, I probably have to give massive kudos to Charlie, my husband, because I think I came at it from such a privileged position, because obviously I started it from scratch with just, energy and trialing it out. And I had the luxury of doing that. So I had no pressure to pay a massive mortgage. Maybe that would have been an incredible driver for me. I don't know. I would like to think it would be now. I feel like I could really turn my hand to that if I had big pressure to pay. I mean, at the moment it's school fees that's driving me, and that kind of thing, that gives you that. So, but it is something, it does definitely drive me now.
Yeah.
And I guess
it takes a bit of getting used to, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
But then there's so many benefits from that,
Yeah.
And actually, when you really think of like what I earned and the hours I worked, and I think, oh my God, was I a massive chump? But I loved it, and it's obviously got me to where I am now. But
yeah. So let's talk about how you balance your life now.
Yeah.
So 2 kids, how old are they?
Yeah. So they are 6 and 9.
6 and 9. I imagine, some periods where they're easier than other periods. Is that a nice way of putting it? A bit of a handful occasionally.
Yes.
So
it's,
how do you balance it all out, running a business with 2 small children?
Yeah. I mean, it is a challenge, and it can be a real juggle, but equally it's so flexible. I can go and watch my daughter in a hockey match on a Tuesday afternoon, and then maybe I'll just make up those hours in the evening. And it enables me. I think I'm very lucky. What's changed massively again since lockdown is I can do a lot of, meetings on screen.
Yeah.
And people are receptive to that. Whereas I definitely felt the pressure before lockdown of being in London at least, once a week, at least twice a month. And I do tend to come up once or twice a month still. But you know, they're both at school now, which has helped. I think of the early years. My business partner, Sophie, who's, you know, incredible. She's got her first baby, who's 1. And actually I look at those baby years and that was a real whirlwind. But
Tell me about
weirdly,
it.
it kind of kept me sane in a weird way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I quite liked, you know, having something that wasn't just
Yeah.
being a mummy baby.
I mean, my
Maybe
wife's exactly the same. She works for herself.
Yeah.
And she you know, she's able to choose the hours that she works.
Yeah.
But you know, we have an 18-month-old.
Yeah.
And so to be able to just go, actually, I'm going to put aside these hours to work, and
Yeah.
you know, it's a dose of normality, and she gets to, you know, go and get the old brain churning and
I do think
spend some time with other people. It's so important.
It's so important, and it kind of gives you that purpose as well as being a mother.
Yeah.
You know, I think I'd probably struggle to be in the corporate world working 5 days a week away from them. So I definitely feel very passionate about being a mum around them and having a career. I mean, you know, the problem is I think you feel guilty a lot of the time, because I kind of think there's such huge opportunities with the business. And part of me sort of thinks, oh my God, should I just sell my soul and take over the world? You know, just sell my soul for 2 years or 5 years. But then I think, oh gosh, but it's manageable at the moment. We're growing really well. But then I can still go to a hockey match on a Tuesday. I can, you know, sort of switch off at the weekends.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
so summer holiday,
summer holidays.
Are you on your emails by the pool? Yeah.
But
and,
then
and do you mind that, or do you?
I don't actually mind. I tend to I'll do a sort of half an hour morning and afternoon.
Yeah.
And just clear my inbox and just kind of keep an eye on things. I mean, this Christmas, actually, between Christmas and New Year, we totally switched off and didn't respond to anything. We kind of took a pause from the shop, and then all the event stuff kind of kicks off in January, Feb.
Yeah.
That was amazing. So we can do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, on holiday, I kind of don't mind checking in. That actually, I feel like if I'm on top of stuff, then I can relax a bit more anyway. So it's fine.
Some people find it more stressful to not check in, and you know, they're going, oh God, what's going on? I actually check out.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, I check out, and I have an amazing team, and I essentially say to them, if you really need me, I'm there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, leave me to. And actually, for me, I like to be able to just draw a straight line.
Yeah.
But
that's probably healthier.
Yeah, I don't know. I've done a bit of both. I've had instances where I've gone on holiday before, read a business kind of focus book on the plane out, and it's ruined the holiday. You know, because I sit down and go, well, there's 50 things for my to-do list when I get back. I should do this and that and the other, and so I'm now way more conscious of it. So things like I'll only read the fiction at night or on holiday, for example. Whereas if I'm reading a business book, it's on the way back from holiday or I don't know, on the train into work, for example.
Yeah.
So, I've learned how I operate in that respect.
Yeah.
Only through making lots of mistakes, obviously.
Yeah. And as a father, how do you feel like the pressure to with your own business and be present and? Yeah,
I do. And I can feel it only getting worse as he gets older.
Yeah.
You know, I think when if there's going to be, I don't know, Wednesday afternoon matches, I'm going to really struggle or whatever it might be. But I'm going to cross that bridge when we get there. But no, I definitely, I think it's only natural to feel that. And you're conflicted, aren't you? Because you're going, I'm doing all of this so that, you know, we can have a nice life.
Yeah.
But, you know, so I want to be there, and are we having a nice life if I'm not there? And, you know, it is a real kind of balancing act. And I think as long as you don't get completely engulfed in it and keep a semblance of normality. And one of the things I try really hard not to do is take stress from within working hours into outside of working hours, because you know, they've not caused it. It's not fair on them if I carry a dark cloud over me at dinner. Yeah. That's not fair.
No.
You know.
And that's amazing to recognise that, actually.
Yeah, and not always possible, of course. No. Sometimes you are sat there kind of composing an email in your mind while you're having a conversation. That's not very healthy. But you know, the intention is definitely there. I want to talk about the niche that you're in. Yeah. Right. So bridal beauty is obviously, it's a niche within a niche. I think we described it as before. There are obviously pros to that, in that you can get traction. And you know the market really well. You know, I imagine things like targeting for your SEO or whatever it might be. You can really nail people's
Yeah.
kind of moment in their lifetime, and capture their interests is probably a better expression.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but has that limited you being in such a niche?
Yes and no. It's interesting. We toy with the idea of separating the business and with the beauty boxes, having that as a generic beauty box company rather than bridal branded. But the beauty brands, what we work with, the top beauty brands. I mean, Charlotte Tilbury doesn't do any other beauty boxes except for us, and they're one of the
Wow.
biggest brands in the world. And when we kind of sounded a couple of those big brands out, and they love our niche route to market. So we aren't, and that gives us the difference between the other beauty box companies. So it does give us that niche, but we do have, the sort of non-bridal, a lot of our boxes, and a lot of our customers aren't brides.
Yeah.
So I think for us, it is a catch-22 situation. For us to have massive growth, it's quite a long way off in the sphere of life at the moment, but I think franchising our business around the world, that's what I'm sort of starting to. I had a moment a couple of years ago and I was like, I think that's how if we really want to kind of have stratospheric
sustain bridal growth, go overseas,
and if you could have teams doing the boxes, the events, in the core markets around the world, I can see it in sort of States and America, Dubai, being huge, and India would be huge. It's obviously just that putting that in place and the teams in place would be a lot of work, and we'd need investment for that. But I think that's how I see big growth. And also we've got some plans and talks to do distribution, which wouldn't be a kind of commercial, that'd be more B2B, but distribution for beauty brands. So that would be something that how we can grow on a tangent. So it is, it kind of gives us that. It was a complete gap in the market. We were the experts in the market. It gave us this amazing, brilliant business. But yes, we do need to. Yeah,
interesting. I think, for listeners out there that are struggling with traction within a market, then I would ask myself the question, are you trying to boil the ocean? To your expression, the beauty market is ginormous. You've taken the niche within a niche. The expression I think I've heard before is, if you wanted to set up a fitness company, start with, doing yoga to postnatal women in a specific geography. And you go, that is hyper niche.
Yeah.
And from there you go, okay, now we can look at yoga at prenatal. And now we look at yoga for men and women. And now we look at yoga and Pilates. And now we expand the geography and actually doing it that way. And the intention is that you can be the best in the world at something.
Yeah.
If it's quite tight.
Yeah.
If it's a small space. And then from there you can grow out, and whether or not it was intentional, it's exactly what you've done.
Yeah.
And we can put on the best bridal show in the UK.
Yeah.
And, from there you get the opportunity to grow with amazing presence, because you've got great traction.
You can do. And actually that's what I would say is my advice for anyone out there, especially women, especially women with perhaps children, if you've got a talent or an area of expertise and toying with the idea and think, oh, I can't, overwhelmed by setting up your own business, there are so many amazing ways. Like, this day and age is incredible for being able to set up your own business from your kitchen table with very little financial investment. And exactly like you're saying, there's no harm in starting small in your niche. If you're an expert in your area, people will listen to you. People will take you on board and you will feel confident to do it. If you think too big sometimes, then that can overwhelm you and make you retreat and not actually start the thing. And then as you say, you have no idea. I love manifesting and visualization, but equally it can be really overwhelming. Sometimes I do it and then I think, oh my God, and actually strip it all back, keep things really realistic and focused to start with. And then once you're on that ladder, then you start to see growth, you do start to think, actually, I kind of, it's just time, isn't it? Or investment, or, you can kind of...
You can experiment a little bit.
Exactly.
And, And it sounds like your database was the kind of the genesis of the next phase of the business. You had that really captive audience, which was huge for you. And some of the tools that you use?
So again, Shopify,
I've never used it. Is it
it's
amazing?
amazing. I
Really
mean, I think they do like a 3-month trial for $1 a month. It's
big
this
investment. Yeah.
incredible, and you can, I mean, it costs us 100 and something pounds a month, nothing. You can tap on all sorts of, extra blogs and stuff, but as your basic Shopify, and you've got access to marketing, and you can, hone in your niches and things. But it's the most amazing, and it's so easy to use the back end. I mean, I'm not actually that tech savvy, and I've had to learn to be. But and we've got amazing guy Jack who does all our content and design and marketing. But I can use it. I can design a page and make it look super professional.
Yeah.
So that is game changing.
I remember when I set up my business, and I had kind of looked at accounting software. We're a tax advisory firm, so that was my first point of call. And I looked at Xero, and I think it was £26 a month, and I was going, surely this is going to ramp up from here. But I think we now pay something like £100 a month. But
it changes your
piece of kit, exactly. And think back, not even that long ago, where businesses were spending tens of thousands of pounds on their accounting software because they were just hugely clunky pieces of kit. It has become so much more accessible. A lot of the tools that you'll be using, I imagine, are Instagram.
Yeah.
TikTok.
We are TikTok. I leave that to the younger guys in the team. Because I'm like, oh God, I'm 40, I'm past it. But again, we 10, 20 years ago, I couldn't have had a shop. Me being based in Dorset, and we couldn't have afforded retail space.
Yeah.
And through Instagram, that is our shop window, and that's the positive power of social media, actually. And I think I've got 2 girls, and there's all this noise at the moment, rightly so, and I'm terrified about the role social media has on, or will, or hopefully doesn't, or has on teenage girls. But equally, on the flip side, there is just that the world's your oyster. You can grow a business, you can grow a shop with this tool if you're clever about it, and you can learn these tools yourself. There's amazing courses you can do, and there's forums you can join that can help you.
Yeah, and I guess you so the difference between yours and our journey is that you started in a big company, so did I. But I started in a big company knowing that I wanted to set up a company.
Right.
So throughout the whole journey, I'm going, oh, that's quite interesting. I'll write that down. I'll take notes of that.
Did you? Were you kind of really looking at everything, thinking?
It was school fees for me.
Yeah.
It was just extra time learning how to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I imagine you weren't thinking that. You were going, oh my God, I just met Estee Lauder. Or,
I know. And actually, even you saying that is making me think, oh God, what could I have? I guess by osmosis you learn so much, don't you? And
absolutely. Yeah. But what resources do you use now to learn? Do you have a community of founders that you work with, or?
There are. I dip in and out, but there are incredible female business forums and Shopify forums, actually. And there's actually a couple of WhatsApp groups. One's called Female Founders. And you can literally put on anything saying, I'm looking for a content creator. I'm looking for so-and-so. Anyone got any idea of how to add this plugin to Shopify? And you get such amazing response, which is great. And you kind of feel like, especially, I'm so lucky because I've got my business partner, Sophie, and we work so well together. But equally, there are times, especially if you're on your own, you actually want that sounding board advice.
And is Sophie complementary in terms of she fills in gaps that you don't have, or do you have quite a similar skill set? How do you work together?
Yeah, well, I think the reason it works so brilliantly is because we came from it with completely different skills.
Yeah.
So she was the beauty editor at Brides. I was the retail editor and events director. So we launched the festival as our first start, with me with the events background and her with her incredible beauty contacts. And we're very different, but we're real yin and yang. We work so well together. And I think the thing with both Soph and I is we are really open, honest people. So, it's like sort of, we're brain dumping on WhatsApp the whole time, just blah, 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 blah. And, there's no kind of awkwardness or suspicion, or, we're really just say it how it is, get it out. And actually that's been really good for me, because Soph is a real black and white kind of character. And I love working with people like that. And I have done, actually, the best sort of bosses or clients I've had are people that are really black and white. So we definitely, our skill sets definitely complement each other. And both of us have, it's naturally kind of, I run all the distribution from the farm in Dorset. So we've got the warehouse, and I've got the team that does all the sort of logistics, and she kind of oversees all the social media and a majority of the day-to-day client and the beauty brand
Yeah,
kind of concept. So
it's a great way to approach it.
yeah,
Right? You know, you're starting a business with somebody that, you know, maybe was even in the same team as you,
yeah.
same skills. It's just, yeah, it's never a good idea, in my opinion. You
No,
know,
do you
because
think that's interesting? I
yeah,
know, I
because you're
wonder
doubling
that.
up.
You're doubling,
Yeah, you're
yeah.
doubling up, and actually, you
And
know,
then maybe that's why there would be friction, whereas Sophie and I very rarely have friction
yeah,
because we come at it from such different.
yeah. I think, you know, you need someone that is going to read every contract,
Yeah.
every word, and you also need someone that's going to go, let's just get after it. And
Yeah.
they are quite different,
Yeah.
you know, mindsets and skill sets, and you obviously you get people that can do both, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the yin and yang approach as you describe it is really, really important.
It is. And actually, well, I'm sure, hopefully you should say the same. We definitely spur each other on, you know, even if
Really?
one of us is feeling a
Yeah.
bit like, oh, I'm not sure about this event or so, you know. And I wonder whether that gives us each confidence to say, oh, come on, let's just do it. It'll be fine kind of thing. And then that kind of, okay, yeah, we'll be fine. We'll do it.
Do you know what? It's really refreshing to hear a success story of co-founders, because I think it's a bigger risk than people think about, right? Going into it. Because if you think about it, if it goes really well, suddenly you own this really valuable business with someone. If it goes really badly, suddenly you and this person, you know, have this kind of failed project together. And what you know, so the potential damage on a relationship for both routes is quite high. So where's the win in it?
I know.
You know, and actually you hear so many people say it's actually a bigger commitment than a marriage, and
it is actually, and you have to be, I mean, Sophie's my sort of, you know,
she's so aligned, and you straight down the line, 50-50, like everything. Because I think that's a nice way of doing it.
And it was interesting. We had we got quite far down the lines with investment this time last year, and we actually decided to go on a different route. And it made us, you know, we've just literally been sort of chasing our tails with the business for the last sort of, it was then 4 years, and it made us kind of sit and look at our 5-year, 10-year plan and talk about it and what we both want from the business, you know. And that was quite an interesting exercise to do, but we can both be so open with each other, I think, which is great. And yeah, and definitely love working with someone.
What made you not go down the investment route?
It was, we felt like at that time and this time at the moment, we can grow considerably without the need to sell part of our business at the moment. And actually it was staff really that we were kind of looking at needing. And at the moment, and then we just felt, do we need that pressure on us to sell part of our business? You know,
can we make it work out?
Can we make it work ourselves at the moment? And actually it made us work out what we need investment for at the moment. Or can we do it ourselves? And as I said to you, I think we need a more cohesive plan for investment in terms of, I think, the franchising thing. And when we're ready to then really put a lot into it,
that's the time.
And also that's the conversation of whether we sell it, whether we, you know, that has to be kind of what our next goal is, basically. So
interesting.
Okay,
so we're nearly there. I've really enjoyed the conversation. We're coming to the final question, right?
Okay.
What's the best or worst piece of advice you think you've had?
Oh, the best, worst. Oh my God.
Or worst, whichever. Best. I don't mind.
Well, I think I've probably touched on it, but I think that, you know, using the 20s to get as many contacts and as much experience as you can, and then use those skills and those contacts to make money.
Yeah.
And also, actually, a tangent of that is, don't be afraid to pick up the phone. I have to say, that is something, don't hide behind email. If someone doesn't reply to you, very rarely are you going to, if you're asking for advice or asking for a meeting or pitching something, you're very rarely going to get someone that's completely rude and slams a phone in your face. And I think that phone call face to face, I mean,
especially nowadays.
Especially
in the
nowadays.
days of AI and automated LinkedIn messaging and just being flooded.
Oh my God, how many emails do you get in your inbox? Delete.
God.
You know, and
some
actually
of them say like hi first name, and you're like, come on.
Yeah.
If you're going to email me, at least write my name down.
Don't you know who I am?
Come on, at least go to some effort, do some research. Yeah, I think. Do you know what I think is great advice?
Yeah.
You know, people actually remember that initial conversation.
Yeah, I think so. And it's so easy to hide behind email this day and age, isn't it? I think. And then the worst piece of advice. Oh, I tell you what, this is really random. A friend's husband of mine, when I was doing the consultancy, and I was toying, should I set this up as an agency? You know, it's growing. And he said to me, yes, but what's the legacy you want to leave? And basically saying, should I be working and I should be a mother? And, you know, when you're 90, what are you going to look back on? You know, the fact that you had a really stressful business or that you were an amazing mother kind of thing. And I felt really angry about it because it is a juggle, but I really strongly believe you can have both. And I do feel I try to be a good mother and I try to be very present, but also I get immense satisfaction about the fact that I have my own business and I work and I contribute to our family. And
do you think your girls recognize that?
Yeah, and I want them to see. I really, I had a moment when I was on maternity leave and literally all they saw me was sort of furiously hoovering and mopping and being really resentful and angry about it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, is that a good role model?
That's a great point.
But it's as we said earlier, it's really hard being a stay-at-home mother. I couldn't do it. I found actually working was, drop them at nursery. I'd be like, oh my God, I can have a cup of tea in peace.
Yeah.
And it's different now they're older because I can, in the holidays, I can say, even if they're not in clubs or whatever, I can say, right, girls, I'm doing 2 hours, I'm going to blitz this, and then we'll go and do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I think, don't let people sort of tell you can't do something. Or if they do, just take that and say, give them the finger and do it anyway.
I think that's a great way to end. And I do you know what? I think your whole journey is just so incredible. It's so
sweet.
inspiring to hear you explain it all and how you juggle it all and what you've built is so impressive.
Well, you're very sweet. You're very sweet.
And I know it's going to continue to grow and it's so fun to watch. And we'll have you back on and we'll hear about your global domination of the bridal industry.
I know, I feel like I've really put that into the atmosphere now. I'm going to make it happen.
You talked about manifesting, it's a great way to do it, to make it public. But thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, honestly. Thank you so much for having me. It means so much, honestly. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Behind the SME. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps others find the show. If you want to get in touch, you can find our email in the description. Until then, keep building, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.